In just a moment, we're going to get to episode 103, featuring Jeremy Howard with Blue Barren Distillery. At the time that I recorded this podcast, Jeremy and I were sitting up on this beautiful hill at Brodis Blueberry Farm in Hope, Maine. At the time, that's where the distillery was located. And in the course of this podcast, you'll hear us talking about their future plans then to move to Camden, Maine and put the distillery and a restaurant on the waterfront. That has happened. So if you're listening to this podcast, say, wait a minute, I thought they were in Camden. They are in Camden now. They weren't at the time we recorded. What you will get to hear in this podcast that is just awesome is the story of how they started Blue Barren Distillery. And toward the end of this podcast, you will hear Jeremy and I enjoy and talk about many of the incredible spirits and gins they have at Blue Barren. I know you're going to love this episode. Cheers, everyone. Welcome to the Culinary Treasure Network. I'm Steven Shomler, your host. Today finds us in Hope, Maine. We're in the mid-coast area of Maine. If you want to check all of the Culinary Treasure Network's Maine-centric content, you can go to adventuresonthemaincoast.com. But we are here. Now, I'm not sure. Jeremy Howard is our guest. Hey, Jeremy, how are you?
Hey, good, thanks.
Now, I'm not sure, Jeremy. Are we at Brodis Blueberries, or are we at the world headquarters for Blue Barren Distillery, or is that both?
We are both. We're right in the middle of Brodis Blueberry Farm, and which is now Blue Barren Distillery.
Yeah, this is awesome. We came up quite a big hill. The road turned to dirt, Jones Hill Road, and we came up, and it says Brodis, and now we are up. There's a beautiful view looking out everywhere. This is pretty phenomenal.
It's a great piece of land, yeah.
Okay, so just to get to a little bit your story before we get to you specialize in gin. You know, I'm a cross drinker. I love all kinds of alcohol, but I have to admit, my absolute favorite is gin. To me, a gin martini, 3 olives. I've had one every night since we've been here, because I'm working and I need to relax. So I am fired up to be here to talk about your gins. But where were you born?
I was born in Camden, Maine, which is right here.
Yeah, very, very close to here. And then where'd you go to high school?
Mount Blue High School. It's up in Farmington, about an hour and a half away.
And who's the mascot there?
The Cougars. Okay,
so your blueberry journey is where we kind of need to start, because that blueberries is partially what launched Blue Barren Distillery. But we are sitting here, Brodis Blueberry Farm, 200 years that it's been farmed roughly. Mm-hmm. And how many generations?
I'm the 7th generation, and the kids are the
8th. That is incredible. And something I didn't realize. You said that I've never heard before, but every generation or every second or third generation changes the name of the farm.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that ever happened. I think it was just marketing and whoever took the reins.
So what are some of the previous iterations that this farm that's been here roughly 200 years has had?
There's Norwood Blueberries, Wild Maine Blueberry Company, Brodis Blueberries.
And you don't plan to change it?
No, Brodis Blueberries, my grandparents did a great job with marketing and getting a huge following. Even out-of-staters come up here for the blueberries.
Yeah, and I've discovered Maine is not unlike Montana. We're not too fond of out-of-staters around here, I've discovered. you say it, no one really admits to that, but
right.
I learned that in Bozeman. And I love Bozeman, Montana, just so we're clear. And I love everybody I've met so far in Maine, but there's a little bit like, who are you? And what are you doing here?
Right, where are you from?
Yeah, exactly. And why the heck are you here? So the blueberries, this is a 1,000-acre farm, mm-hmm. 200 acres of wild blueberries. Mm-hmm. And you told me something fascinating. Wild blueberries, tell me about the harvest.
So they harvest, the blueberry plant creates a blueberry every other year. So it's every 2 years a blueberry grows. So we split the farm, roughly 100 acres each year. And when they're ready, it's late July, early August. And that's it. They'll get the one shot. You have to harvest them all. And if the weather's good, you can do well. If the weather's against you, then you lost it.
Oh, and then you have mechanical equipment, mm-hmm. but then fresh blueberries that you sell right here, you have a blueberry rake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an old traditional rake. It hasn't been developed or improved forever. Yeah, you just bend over the wild blueberries. They're only 6 inches tall. They grow right on the ground. And so you have to bend over and stick the tines underneath the blueberries and pick it up. And we used to do that for 5 weeks every summer, a crew of 20, 25.
This is when you're in high school.
Yeah.
Go out and help grandparents with their blueberry farm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
So if some of you that are from this neck of the woods, you know what blueberry rakes look like. Maybe even you might despise them, depending on your childhood. But for those of you who don't, I will put a picture. If you go to culinarytreasurepodcast.com and go to the article, I'll have pictures of blueberry rakes. You can look at them down below and see what one of these things actually is. But in your journey, if I understand correctly, you were a builder professionally for a long time. You were out Farmington Way and you moved back to this neck of the woods to Hope roughly in 2000. Mm-hmm. And then 2016, you and your dad kind of took over running the Brodis Blueberry Farm. Is that right?
That's right. Yep.
And I tell you, the blueberries out here in Maine, it's a whole different deal.
They're two completely different fruits. The cultivated ones versus the wild, there's no comparison. They're both blue, and that's where the comparison ends.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I just had my first Maine lobster. Was it yesterday? I think it must have been yesterday. The days are flying by, but it's almost like to me, a hot buttered lobster or one roll or one with mayo. It's like two different things. Yeah. It's just radically different.
Right.
Okay, so let's get to what led you to say I'm going to become a distiller and start a distillery.
It all started one night when I was having a couple beers with my friend Andrew Stewart, who owned a very popular pub in town in Camden. And I was complaining about the price of blueberries because all of the wild blueberry prices have dropped. And he jokingly said, well, if they're so cheap, maybe we should ferment them and distill them. We could maybe make wine or just jump right into a distillery. And we kind of laughed about that. And then the next morning we started texting each other saying, hey, that's actually a pretty cool idea. We could distill blueberries and make a brandy out of it.
And you literally did that. That was what, 2017 roughly, having this conversation?
Yeah. Yep.
And then 2018 you apply, start beginning the license process. Different states, it's harder and easier in some states to start a distillery. Nowhere in the United States is it easy, paperwork wise, to start a distillery.
Absolutely.
And then you started studying how to be a distiller.
That's right. Yeah. We did about 12 months of research to really try to figure it out, because no one has ever distilled wild Maine blueberries before. So we didn't know what it would really taste like. All that we knew is we didn't want to make a spirit and then add in blueberry flavoring syrup at the end. We didn't want it to be blue. We didn't want it to be sugary. We wanted just to create the authentic spirit that a wild blueberry makes. And so, yeah, and that actually made our lives easier, because what we were going to do is just take blueberries, ferment them, and run them through the still, and that's it. And what it is what you get.
What was that like experimenting, figuring that out? I bet that must have been...
It was a roller coaster. We tried it first on this little 5-gallon pot. We had no idea what we were doing. And it worked enough to the point where we thought, okay, at least this is palatable and we might have a chance at this. And then we just jumped in, bought a big still. And
where'd you get your still from?
From Vendome down in Kentucky.
And so you bought a new still or a used still?
It's custom actually for our space. When we started, we were down in Camden Harbor at a boatyard with 8'2" ceilings.
Oh my goodness!
So that was a funny story when we were talking to the still manufacturer about the specifications, and they said, "So what's your ceiling height roughly?" And I said, "Well, just roughly 8'1", 8'2", and they laughed and said, "Oh boy, well yeah, we can give you a few plates, but that's it." So yeah, the still was actually built for that spot that we're in, and we're very happy with it. The still can do everything.
Yeah, but where we're sitting now is up on the blueberry farm. You built this really amazing building that's now the distillery, and kind of fascinating to me. You've got all these tables set up outside, so in the summertime, people can come up here and they can have a cocktail and enjoy this incredible view.
Yeah, it's worked out really well.
And that was a COVID pivot, right?
Yes, COVID, and there was a fire down at the boatyard where we were. So that's why it bumped up us up here. But this was our 10-year plan, to have the Camden Harbor location going and then eventually do the farm distillery up here. And with our licenses, we're allowed to do tasting and cocktails outside, and it's beautiful views over the lake and the mountains, and we're literally in a blueberry barren right now.
Yeah, and for those that know, a blueberry barren is, to us civilians and non-Mainers, it's blueberry field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the name for a field. Yeah,
which I so love, that blueberry is like your part of your family's legacy, and the name of the distillery is Blue Barren Distillery.
That's right.
I think that is just fantastic. So, in a perfect world, someday we get beyond COVID, will you have a place again down on the water, a tasting room, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Starting next year, we're going to be building out the new spot over the winter, back down in Camden Harbor, and we'll have another still down there, and we'll have a restaurant and upstairs pub.
Okay, so they'll be tasting and everything. I mean, a restaurant and tasting and a distillery.
Right. And as well as this, we'll keep this up here. We're going to keep this Vendome still up here and do the farm distillery here.
And then in a perfect world, because things change. So trust me, go to their website, find out what actually happens. But in a perfect world, next summer, would people still come up here, or would they have both experiences, both places?
Yeah, both. And that's what we're really jazzed about, is that they can go down to Camden Harbor, which is beautiful. It's touristy in a good way. There's a reason that tourists go to Camden. It's gorgeous. And they can sit right on the docks with our distillery and restaurant down there, and then a 10-minute drive, they can come up to the mountains up here and have a cocktail at the farm. And
like your 10-year plan, do you plan to put in a more developed interior bar or restaurant or space here for retail?
Yeah. We're thinking about a timber frame off the west side of the barn. Probably not a restaurant, but yeah, more of a retail space up here.
Yeah, and then a tasting room.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Well, I want people to buy lots and lots of this stuff so that you can build all of that, because this is such. I'm going to at least shoot some a pan shot, some video, and at least put it up just to attach the video so people to this podcast, to the article, so people can see what it is up here. It is absolutely stunningly beautiful.
Nice, thank you. It's a great piece of land, and it's worth trying to come up with these value-added products to keep the blueberry farm going.
I love that. Okay, so you're going to distill blueberries, real blueberries, no sugar, no blueberry syrup. And so what's the first product you came up with?
It's an eau de vie, which is just the most authentic spirit that you can get from any fruit. So if you distill fruit, that's in the brandy family, of course. And an eau de vie, which is the same thing as Austrian schnapps or a grappa, it's a fruit spirit that has not been aged in a barrel yet. We made some eau de vie and stuck it in a barrel, and we'll leave that for 8 years or so until we open that one up. But the first product, we just wanted the most authentic spirit that a wild Maine blueberry can make.
Okay, so I was distracted for a second. 8 years? What's in the barrel? It's going to be there for 8 years?
The eau de vie aged in a barrel, because as soon as it's aged, then it's not an eau de vie anymore. It's a brandy.
Right. So I'm kind of capped. That's what I thought you said, because an 8-year aged blueberry brandy with actual, like, not added distillates or nonsense or syrup, that's going to be stunning.
Yeah, really good. We've tested it a little bit, and
you got to pull a nail. You got to test it.
It's great right now, and it's about 3 years in now. So.
And is that just like enough to sell? Is that going to be just like 10 bottles, or enough to sell, to the public? Or
yeah, it'll be local sales only. We'll put more in starting next year. Once we kind of get the new space, we'll up that. But yeah, it'll just be a limited release when that comes out. Yeah,
and people don't understand, when you actually do your own whiskey or your own brandy, instead of having someone do it for you, which some people do.
Yeah,
it takes a long time.
It does. Yeah. That first year, we did 32,000 pounds of blueberries and fermented those. So just all the labor of harvesting all of those, cleaning them, crushing them, fermenting it, it filled our distillery. We had totes. We had 11 totes of blueberry wine at that point that we were trying to run through the still. It took forever.
Well, we're going to try some of this blueberry eau de vie at the end of the podcast. I'm super excited about that. But then you started really leaning into gin.
Yeah.
And I'm a cross drinker. I like anything that's got alcohol in it. Even the bad stuff, I find I can get some joy out of it. But my absolute favorite is gin.
Yeah.
I love a gin martini. Every day on this trip, I've had a gin martini at night, when I put it on my Instagram, it's because, I got to. I'm working so hard. I need the gin martini. So I was so excited jumped out of my skin when we were able to put this together, because there's all of these different gins how many different gins do you do?
We have 9 gins, which was not the original plan. We were just going to do a few, but we love it as well. We love making gin. We love gin as a spirit. Yeah.
And so there's a reason that you can't just survive on eau de vie as a distillery, obviously. So you got to make some other product. Some people go vodka, some people go gin, because whiskey takes forever to age, and maybe you do that later. But some people do. But vodka's an easy, or gin's an easy go-to thing to make some money sooner than later.
That's right.
And so why did you choose the gin route as opposed to the vodka route?
Well, the biggest thing was personal preference. We like gin, but then right after that is that where we are, right on the coast of Maine, it's a nautical community, and gin has a history with sailors, and so it fit the land really well. And then as a distiller, they're so much fun to make. Obviously, gin, the predominant flavor has to be juniper, and that's the last rule. You can do whatever you want after that, as long as it has a predominant flavor of juniper. The sky's the limit. So it's really fun to what we decided to do is follow the harvest seasons. So we did a blueberry rhubarb gin during blueberry season. Right now we're launching our apple cranberry gin because it's the fall. We do a coastal mountains gin in the spring, which has spruce tips and pine needles and burdock root in there.
So there's a distillery in Duluth, Minnesota that I absolutely love. They do some fun stuff with local things and spruce and pine, the things that you're talking about. Same kind of thing. So I love that. That is amazing.
Yeah, it works. It works from a business standpoint too. Another example is we have a lavender farm right on the other side of this farm is Appleton, and the lavender farm is called Glendara Farm. So that's where we source lavender. We make a lemon lavender gin out of their stuff. So,
but if anybody's coming here, there's 2 Jones Roads.
That's right.
And there's one, and then it's one Jones Road, but they both dead end.
Yeah.
And so if you take the wrong Jones Road through Appleton, you can't get here. You have to come around the other way.
Right. You have about a 20-minute drive. You could do a 5-minute walk, but you have to do a 20-minute drive around to get to the right one.
And what's the right road? If anybody's coming from out of state, what's the right one to come in on?
Just make sure you're in Hope. So come off of Hatchet Mountain Road.
Yeah, I love that Hatchet Mountain Road. That's just evocative. I love that. And another reason, and you said it, but I just want to lean in a little bit. Another reason you kind of took the gin route as opposed to the vodka route is you personally love gin.
I do. I much prefer it over vodka. Just the different flavor profiles, and yeah, I've been drinking it for quite a while. Unfortunately, I had my first gin. I think it was Gordon's way back in my early days. Me and some friends who had no idea what we were doing drank too much of that, and that ended my gin drinking for quite a while. And then as I got older, I got back into it, and thinking back on it, I really think it was, like when Hendrick's came out. Before that, it was just the 3 or 4 standard gins that you could always find, and then Hendrick's came out with something a little bit different, and it was exciting to taste the different profiles in that. And then finding the small distilleries that were doing it, and now gin's taken off worldwide. Yeah,
and I do love me. Years ago, my friend Annabelle introduced me to Hendrick's, and it is phenomenal.
Yeah,
I mean, if I see Hendrick's on the menu and I'm in a celebratory mood, I'm going to get me a Hendrick's gin martini. That is some great martini. I love it that you shared your story of where your gin journey began. And you were like, 12 years old, right? That was middle school?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But what I'm glad for is that even though you just started drinking and you had an evening of misfortune with Gordon's on ice, that you were able to overcome that. Because I have lots of friends to this day that, they can't handle tequila because they had a bad college night with it. And they just can't, the smell, they don't go with it. And I'm so glad you were able to overcome that and get to where we can have this amazing gin.
That's right.
So we're going to taste your Harbor gin. So we'll come back to that. Tell me about this... how do you say this again?
Glendara.
Glendara. And so this is a lemon and lavender gin?
Yeah, yep. That was our second gin that we made after the Harbor. Lemon lavender, and it took off very well. It's a fruity, florally gin. Really good in a bee's knees cocktail.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. And if you can tell us your website.
BlueBarren.com.
BlueBarren.com, BlueBarren.com. Oh, I like that. That's short.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I've been on the website. I don't remember the URL. It's been a long day. But so if you want to know all of the gins and all the spirits, go to their website and check it out. We're not going to talk about all of them. We're not going to drink all of them, although I would like to, but I have a dinner at 8, so I can't do that. So lemon and lavender, and it's local lavender.
Yeah, right from literally the other side of the farm. And then this bottle, it's a barreled Glendara. So we took that Glendara gin and put it in a bourbon barrel. Almost as a joke, Andrew and I, one day we had an extra bourbon barrel. We were going to put our rum in there. And we said, well, let's throw the lavender in. That doesn't really make any sense. And we left it in there for a year and pulled it out. And we love it. It's unbelievable. It starts off as a bourbon, and then the lavender kicks in at the end. And
so we've got a distillery on the Oregon coast in Astoria, Pilot House Distilling. I did a podcast with them, and they do a barrel-aged gin that is absolutely amazing. And since you've got those lobster boats around here and their sailing stuff, they do something with their whiskey that's interesting. They put their whiskey in barrels, and put it on tuna boats and send it to Alaska and back. Maybe you could do like a barrel-aged gin and put it on a lobster boat for a season. That would be interesting.
It's actually funny you mentioned that. I think that's a great story. That's amazing.
Yeah, they dip it in the whole thing in wax, so the fishermen aren't tempted to get into it.
Yeah, right. We also make rums, which they're not out yet. We released a spiced rum in 2019, and then after the fire in 2020, we lost the rest of it. So we are going to have a warehouse out on an island where we can age our rum barrels out there. It's what they do in Scotland, to try to get a lot more evaporation with the sea breezes and the salty air. It makes a difference.
So you're going to have rum barrels on an island. Mm-hmm. When roughly will that be?
Probably about a year from now. And we're not going to tell you the name of the island.
That's fine, but I've been lucky enough to go to Bozeman the past 4 or 5 years doing gathering content. I said I think I need to come back to this neck, the mid-coast Maine, every year, this time of year. So at some point, at least I need to have a secret adventure out there. I won't spill the beans, but
let's do it.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of nautical, you've got a Navy gin. So talk to people about that.
Yeah, the Navy gin, it's great. That's one of my favorites, not only because it has 57% alcohol, but it has a lot more juniper in there. A lot of juniper, a lot of coriander. And we did put lemon peel in there to balance out the bitterness. And that one's fantastic in a martini. It's done really well.
We have a Northwest distillery that does, it's called Big Gin. And that is hit you in the head with juniper. I mean, just like intense. And I absolutely love it. Yeah. I love that juniper smack in the head. Yeah. Okay. And then this has really caught my eye. Barron's Maine Christmas gin. It's got a fun label. I'll put a picture up. What the heck? Talk to me about this.
Yeah. That was another idea after a few drinks one night. Andrew and I came up with that one. Obviously, just for Christmas. And so a lot of people think it's a piney, sprucey gin, and it's not. It's actually peppermint, nutmeg, and cloves in there, as well as the juniper. So it's actually a sweet gin. It's a sipping gin. It makes a really good cocktail, but we just like it on the rocks.
So what do you do with it cocktail wise? What kind of fun cocktails do you come up with?
Anything sweet. We do something with pomegranate juice and simple syrup in there.
Oh wow!
You have to garnish it with one of those small candy canes off the side.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, and then this is, I saw this on your website, and I'm like, what? I couldn't even get my mind around it, and I didn't even bother reading it because I wanted to hear the story from you. But talk to me about Barron's Sugar Kelp Vodka.
Yeah.
Is this like seaweed vodka?
It's seaweed vodka. It really is. Yeah.
And people actually buy it.
They do. And your reaction is exactly what their first initial reaction is. Yeah, they want to try it because they have no idea. And it's, some people it's not for them at all because it's a organic wheat vodka with kelp that we just put in a stainless steel barrel for a month and then distill that. So the kelp flavor comes through at the end. It has a brininess to it. It's as soon as you taste it, you feel like you're out on the ocean eating oysters and lobster.
So how would you recommend people use this?
We like to make a Collins out of it. So lemon juice, simple syrup, a little bit of soda water in there. Then also really fun is just a little squeeze of lemon on top. Just one wedge of lemon and squeeze it over there with one ice cube. It sweetens it out amazingly. It's really good to sip it that way. But my favorite way is some of our friends in Camden were having a dinner party with oysters, and they would pour a shot of sugar kelp vodka onto the half shell of the oyster and eat it.
Oh, wow, yeah.
That's my favorite one I've heard so far.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Yeah, I can do that. Okay, and you just get is it local kelp, I guess? Locally harvested kelp?
It is, yeah. We partnered with Atlantic Sea Farms, they're doing amazing work. Kelp is having a moment right now. It's changing the structure of the sea. It's the carbon footprint's amazing. So and it's tasty. So we're hopping on the kelp train.
I love that. And I was kind of teasing me and having fun with locally harvested kelp, but of course it is. And what's the name of the people you partner with again?
Atlantic Sea Farms.
Atlantic Sea Farms. Yeah, they're
amazing. And they harvest right off the coast of Camden. So North Haven, Spruce Head.
Yeah, that is awesome. Well, let's taste some of these. I think I want to start with the Blue Barren. Mm-hmm. I think I want to end with the Eau de Vie.
Okay.
Just because it's so different, I'm going to save that one. All right. So you tell me what I'm tasting here.
So this is our harbor gin. Obviously juniper in there, but we wanted this to be a Plymouth style gin. But we wanted everything that is in there to be something that we can grow here on the farm or in Maine. So instead of licorice, which is typically in a Plymouth style gin, we use fennel. And instead of citrus peel, we use lemongrass. So lemongrass is the predominant flavor besides juniper in this one. And there's angelica root in there too. So it's an easygoing Plymouth style gin. This one you can do anything with.
I get the fennel. I get the lemongrass. One of my favorite Olympia Provisions in Portland, Oregon, they do charcuterie, and they have some charcuterie, with fennel in it, and it is absolutely phenomenal. And this would be absolutely terrific with that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of blown away. Fennel in gin, it just works.
It does. Yeah. This one took us 14 trials to get to it, and the fennel was difficult. It tasted really good in larger quantities, but the bitterness came through at the end. So we had to keep playing with that. And similarly, the lemongrass took us forever. But yeah, 14 trials, and we finally got it.
Yeah, because people don't understand distilling with an ingredient is it's different than cooking with the ingredient, and you have to figure out how to work the ingredient so you get the flavor profile you're looking for.
Right. Yeah, and us being new, there's all kinds of different nuances with putting the botanicals right in the pot with the alcohol, or we have a gin basket on our still, so we can put some things in there.
You love being a distiller, don't you?
I do. It's great. It's so much fun. Yeah, it really is.
I wish we were filming right now, because your joy is effervescent when you talk about the actual, and all good distillers. I've been blessed to interview and meet a lot of distillers, and they all kind of have that joy, of the creation and the chemistry and the putting it together and, figuring it out and the discovery. And
it's fun.
And I get the benefit of the end product. So to me, this would be a fantastic martini. Anything else you like to do with this?
We love it in a gimlet. We jumped on board with trying to bring back the gimlet.
I love me a gimlet, and some people, they like fresh lime juice in the gimlet. I'm old school. I like Rose's lime juice in my gimlet. I know some people like the fresh, but I have gimlets every summer.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, either a gin and tonic or a gimlet on a hot summer day is absolutely perfect for me, or maybe both.
Right.
Okay, now we're going to try the Navy gin, and tell us again the strength of this.
So 57% alcohol. The whole storyline behind Navy gin, it's a category of gin. It has to be 57% or 114 proof. It started with the British Royal Navy. They used to give rations to the brass, and they stored the barrels of gin underneath, because obviously they didn't want the sailors breaking into it during the day. But they would store it right next to the gunpowder. So their fear was, if anything happened and the barrel of gin spilled and got the gunpowder wet, they would be dead on the water, right? So 57% alcohol is the lowest percent alcohol that still lights on fire. And that's where the Navy gin came from, that category.
And yeah, this is, I definitely would enjoy the Harbor gin in a martini, but this, give me 3 olives that have been soaked in vermouth, 3 traditional martini olives. This is phenomenal.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I absolutely love this. You nailed this one. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's obviously has a lot of juniper and coriander in there, but the lemon peel really balances it out.
So when you do a martini with this, tell me how you do it. Tell me your recipe, your approach.
Yep. I like it. I like a dirty martini myself. So yeah, we shake it up. Actually, don't put a whole lot of ice in there. A little brine and couple olives, and just call it good.
Okay. And so I know that too much shaking, too much ice, you can bruise the gin or bruise the vodka. So I've been told, but I just love the sound of that shaking. When I'm at home, I like to shake it a little. I just love the sound of it. And I like 3 olives. And then I like to wave the vermouth bottle over mine, and then put it aside.
Yeah.
Although, lately I've been having Vespers, half gin, half vodka and a little bit of Lillet and a lemon peel. And I love that. And this also, this would be fantastic in a Lillet.
Yeah.
I really love that. Okay, wasn't intended to, but since the bottle's here, I'm going to try a little bit about this Maine Christmas gin.
I'm just kind of fascinated. I think maybe we should have had like some peppermint chocolate to go with this.
Yeah, we should
Because
have
you get chocolate and whiskey. I've never thought about chocolate and gin before, but I'm wondering. I'll see if this is going to work.
That's where this one comes from. The peppermint kicks in at the end. It's a sweet gin. It really is, without being sugary. Not that way sweet. It's just a fun little gin to sip on.
The nose is amazing, and it is a sweet gin, and it's not sugary. I don't know how you pulled this off, to be honest.
Yeah, there's no sugar in it. There's the peppermint. There's nutmeg, which can be sweet, but then that bitterness at the end, at 4 or 5 seconds after, that nutmeg and cloves kind of kicks in.
I wasn't sure about this, and I was prepared to say, yeah, okay, this is really good. It's really weird, but it's really, really good. What I want to make some kind of hot winter beverages. I don't know what I would do. Nothing comes to mind, but something hot, a hot cocktail with this. Wow, a warm cocktail. I bet that'd be phenomenal.
Yep. We have put it in a mulled cider before. Kind of not during the Christmas holidays, but more of an autumn apple season. We put a mulled cider in there, and it's good. It brings out that sweetness even more. Another fun one, and then we discovered this by accident. We took a glass out of the dishwasher, and the glass was warm. So we just drank it straight, warm, just on a warm glass. It was a totally different spirit. It was fantastic.
Oh, that's brilliant. So yeah, if you're listening to this podcast and you get a chance to pick up some of this Maine Christmas gin, get it. And if you've got someone that loves gin, get it for them and just tell them, just try it. Don't even think about it. Just try it. And I'm shocked how much I like it. It really is kind of blowing my mind. All right, I'm going to try this lemon and lavender. I usually only try 2 or 3, at the end of a podcast, but you kind of got me hornswoggled here.
Yeah, you're up on top of a blueberry mountain, so yeah. So this is a lemon lavender gin that we aged in a bourbon barrel for about 1.5 years. This was another thing we just kind of did without really having a plan. We just thought it would be fun to do, and we love it. It's a sipping gin.
It is a sipping gin. Wow. I love, I mentioned Pilot House Distilling, and they have a barrel-aged gin that I love to sip. It's a very intense but wonderful gin. And this is one that I would love to sip. And this is kind of weird because, for me, spirits, beverages either go like, I think my head goes to a cold winter night. I love those in the Oregon cold winter nights, or, a warm summer day. And I think I could do both with this. I think I'd sit on the deck and let the sun, in the afternoon to be perfect. But I also think by the fire, on a cold night. And that's rare for me that a drink can do both of those things.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, because it's that heavy bourbon, of course, but then a fruity lavender kick at the end. So it's both worlds.
You're making gins like I've never had before. And I've had a lot of gins.
Everything that we do, I can't think of one that is fairly standard, because we get that question a lot when they come to the market or do a tasting. They'll say, "Well, which one is your standard gin that tastes like Tangray or something?" We don't really have one. We point people to the Harbor, but
even the Harbor's unique. It's in the ballpark of a ginny gin. You have a friend, Tomas, one time he's a brewer, and someone said, "You made a beer that finally tastes like beer."
Yeah, right.
So that's kind of in the ballpark of a ginny gin. But it's not like you have a traditional gin. Nothing against traditional gins, but you just have all amazing gins.
Yeah, thank you.
It's kind of blowing my mind. All right, I don't want to try this sugar kelp, just to be honest. But I'm gonna. It's my job. I think I have to. It's my responsibility I must try this.
Sugar kelp vodka.
I think I'm going to love it. What I'm afraid is I'm going to love it, and I'm going to want it on oysters, like you said.
Yeah.
That's what I'm afraid is about to happen here.
That's a fun way to do it. We just took locally harvested kelp and let it sit in a vodka for almost a month, and then we filter it and run it through the still, distill it one more time, and call it good. A funny story with this one, our original plan was to do that, and then in the gin basket, as we're distilling it, to put sesame seeds and chili flakes and those kind of flavorings in there to try to get like this sushi vodka with a kelp kick
like
on it.
A furikake seasoning.
Yeah. And we did it, and it was nice. We liked it, but then we went right back just to keeping it simple and authentic and nothing but the sugar kelp.
You said it's kind of like, you're on the ocean when you take a drink. It's like I'm drinking the ocean, but it's a vodka. It kind of messes with my head.
It is.
I do like it. I didn't know that I would. But the briny's there, but it's not at all overpowering.
Right. Yeah, it's something. Some people do drink it straight; they enjoy it that way. But really, making that into a martini as you're eating seafood is really good.
Yeah, I want this with like a tuna steak.
Yeah.
That's just barely done. That would be phenomenal. Or some really good sushi with real wasabi. Real wasabi, you can get some Oregon Coast wasabi. She's a friend of mine, grows real wasabi on the Oregon Coast. But yeah, with seafood, this would absolutely be phenomenal. I don't know about fish and chips. It'd have to be a little better than fish and chips. Be real seafood to get, because I want that seafood flavor.
That's right.
Know?
Yeah.
Wow, this is kind of messing with my head.
Yeah, this one is our most unique product by far, hands down. We quickly came up with the idea, and I have friends down at Atlantic Sea Farms, and we just did a quick text and said, has anyone started making this stuff yet? And they said no, and we jumped right in, and it's been great. It's a lot of fun for the mixologists in the seafood restaurant world, because they're pairing it with all kinds of seafood, so they're having a blast with it.
So yeah, a mixologist. I would love to give. I know a number of really good bartenders in Portland, and I would love to give that to them and say, come up with something. Have you ever done a gin dinner?
We haven't with the distillery, but we have been to events where they showcase our gins with different chefs on the coast here.
Because there's wine dinners, and you get a different glass of wine. Usually one winery. I've been to beer dinners, but I was lucky enough to host a rum dinner with Kaloa Rum Winery out of Kauai. And every course, some of the food was made with theirs, but every course you got either one of their rums or a rum cocktail. It was phenomenal. I would love to go to a dinner where every course is one of your gins. And maybe, and some chefs would say, oh, I'm going to do something with this. I'm going to make a whatever with this lemon and lavender gin and put it on or put it in the food. I bet that would be phenomenal.
That's a great idea.
So yeah, I've like, when I talked to the president of Kaloa, he's a wonderful human being. I said, we're going to do a rum dinner someday. And he goes, what's that? I said, it's like a wine dinner, but rum every course. He says, okay, Steven. And then a couple years later, he came to Portland and we literally did one.
Really?
And it was phenomenal. And I can see this working with your gins, like a dessert. Mm-hmm. With your Maine Christmas gin, it would be phenomenal. Or I could do dessert with your lemon and lavender. I could come up with something lemon dessert. Oh, wow. So think about it. Think about it. I think that would be a blast.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and people would love it. Okay, let's try this blueberry eau de vie that started the whole thing. It launched you off on your journey.
Right. So this is it. This is the most authentic spirit that a wild Maine blueberry can create. So it's not what a lot of people think this is going to be is dark blue, all sugar, blueberry pie is what they're thinking, and they're shocked that it's clear and it has a hint of blueberry, but it's just a fruity spirit.
Yeah, this is really, really nice. What are some of the things you love to do with it most?
We sip on this one. We did make a riff off of a pisco sour, which kind of makes sense because it's of pisco being from grapes and this being blueberries. And that was really good. People love that. But what it's come down to is there's so much effort that goes into this little bottle, between the harvest and just everything and the fermenting and the distilling, letting it rest in glass for months. And, it's one of those products, at least for us, that we don't allow it to go into a cocktail.
Yeah, don't mess with it. Just drink it as it is and enjoy it for what it is.
Yep. It's just kind of a conversation piece. Yeah.
I just think that's amazing that you had the tenacity to say, I'm gonna distill blueberries and actually have real blueberries and distill those. Because so many people would say, well, we're just going to dump some blueberry syrup in at the end,
Right. Yep, exactly.
We'll make a blueberry vodka that's not real.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We really did not want to do that. We're very happy with it. We've been, every batch that we make, it sells out within weeks.
So when people come up here, what are some of the cocktails? Is there a cocktail list, a cocktail menu that they order from?
It's kind of all changed. Up here, of course, gin and tonics. That's the easy one. And then we usually have a sour mixer or a sweet mixer. So either pineapple juice or a grapefruit juice, and just do something fun with that. And martinis. And it's we don't even have a cocktail board up here. People, just because you're up on this mountain overlooking the lake, on a blueberry farm. It's a lot more fun to have people come in and just have a conversation with them about what they like for a drink, and kind of depending on the humidity levels of the day, steer them in that direction, and something sour or sweet or just a straight G&T.
Okay, so current approximate plans. Anybody listening to this podcast, check the website first. But roughly summer 2022, you're going to open up down on the Camden Harbor.
That's right.
Hopefully have a restaurant, have a tasting room. You're going to have a distillery there. You're going to have a still there.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll have all of that going on. And that, by the way, I love t-shirts. That shirt isn't, you'll sell t-shirts, right?
We will. Yep.
Oh, that's
we'll have a
good.
whole shop.
Yeah. And if you do mugs, I'll get one of those too, because I love me a good coffee mug. And I just love, I'm captivated by the Blue Barren name. That's just amazing.
Yeah. The logo is a blueberry rake with a bottle that's kind of the handle turned into a bottle. So that's, yeah.
Well, I'll take a picture of the mug and people will be able to see it. And then at some point in the future, sometime in the next 10 years, I'm being purposely, far off. You'll have a really cool tasting room and retail space up here on the mountain. And probably sooner than 10 years, but that's kind of the hope.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, right now it's all outdoors. So yeah, it'd be great to have something indoors.
Yep. And then sometime in the next couple of years, you'll have the secret island for the rum distilling.
That's right. Right.
And then are you distributed outside of Maine yet, or mainly in Maine?
We are in Minnesota and Florida right now. We're close to New York and close in Colorado. So we're getting there. With COVID last year, obviously it was
a rough year. That makes sense. I lived in Minnesota for 3 years, so I know how important it is. You need to drink when you're there.
That's right.
And that we're hardy folk out there, and they need their gin. So it makes sense. Your amazing stuff would be out there.
Nice.
Plus, there's a lot of kindred spirit as far as the culture. For my only been in Maine a few days, but it kind of feels similar to some of Minnesota, outstate Minnesota, we call it. If you're not in the Twin Cities. Like outstate, is that Iowa? And then I realized, oh no, it's just not anywhere outside of the Twin Cities, right. But in the state limits is Minnesota.
Nice, yeah, I love it over there. It's a fantastic state.
And I'm pretty sure that when you get to travel to talk about the distillery or introduce a new market or talk to people about it, that you are happier than a pig in mud.
I am, yeah. I really am. Just obviously the blueberry story is special to me personally, just because of the blueberry farm. But it's so much fun to come up with some of these ideas. I mean, to put peppermint and nutmeg in a gin, that sounds awful, but we did it and it actually tastes pretty good. So it's just fun to kind of come up with these ideas and play with it and just the roller coaster of starting and running a small business. Yeah, there's been just some very low lows and nothing's working and how come we can't figure this out, and then the highs, and so it's all worth it. But
so any flavors running around your noggin of gin that you might lean into and that you're thinking about in the next 4 or 5 years that you might do?
There's a lot of elderflower and elderberries are interesting. We've had thoughts about that one. Collaborations with different restaurants. There's one gin, we didn't try it today, that we make for a Primo restaurant down in Rockland. It's one of the best restaurants around here, and we use a lot of their garden herbs. So sorrel, nasturtium, lemon balm is in there, so it's a gardeny gin. Those are super fun. And I guess another really fun thing in the collaborations world, we made beer with local breweries and then distilled it. It's kind of a new thing. Other people are doing this. So anything with alcohol, that's what we need in the still to extract the alcohol and make a spirit out of it. So we made, with Orono Brewing Company, which is one of our favorites, we made a stout, a chocolate malty stout with them. Ended up being about 8% and stuck that in the still. So we got that 8% of volume back out as a clear distillate, and then aged it in a bourbon barrel. So it starts off as a bourbon, and then this malty beer hoppiness kicks in at the end. It's one of my favorite things, and I'm a whiskey guy. I love whiskeys.
I'm kind of just stunned. You've been holding on. So what do you call that?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out. We had a name. It's a Scottish slang for whiskey, and the label approval committee said that we can't use that. So yeah, we don't know.
It's a spirit. I mean,
it's a spirit
because it's not a whiskey. It's not a vodka. It's not beer, obviously.
Right. Yeah, it's a distilled. We can call it distilled barley and hops. If there's hops in there, we can't call it a whiskey. There's one. We did one with Kushnock Brewing, and they did not put hops in that beer, so we technically could call that a whiskey. So yeah, it's. Well, when you think about it, beer starts off the same way that whiskey does,
oh, of
right?
course, yeah.
So,
you have to make a lot of beer to make good whiskey.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's pretty much the same. They're just doing all that work for us, and then we stick it in the still. But the collaborations are so much fun.
So I got a couple ideas to run by you then. Yeah. So have you ever had a rock beer? It's a smoke beer. It's a very smoky flavor beer.
Okay.
And some of them, it's a style of beer you may not be familiar with, but check it out. And some of them, the smoke hits you in the head and you're like, no, never mind. But some of them are subtle and amazing. Threshold Brewing is a brewery in Portland, Oregon, and they make a smoke beer. He does a Polish style smoke beer, and it is so good because smoke is not my favorite flavor, and it is so good. You just take another drink. So if you were to get a smoke beer, have someone make you a rock beer or a smoke beer, their version of one, and then distill that, I think that would be absolutely stunning.
Wow.
And then one of the ways that I found to really take a martini to the next level for me, and I would love to get a gin if you did do this, is I use Meyer lemon.
Mm-hmm.
Meyer lemon peel to finish off a martini. It just, the smell, the aroma.
Wow.
And Meyer lemon's hard to work, but if you could do a Meyer lemon gin, you may need to do Meyer lemon and something in gin.
Right.
I bet that would be absolutely stunning and phenomenal.
Right. Oh, I love that. And that's exactly what's so much fun about this, right? Like you can just, two people can sit down and just say like, hey, what about this? This would be a really interesting idea, or it could be totally crazy, but pull it off and work it. But yeah, the sky's the limit, especially right now with small craft distilleries. The regulations are opening up where there's a lot of them now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe when we landed in Portland and I spent a half day there before I came up here, and I can't believe how many distilleries and breweries just all around Portland, Portland, Maine. I mean, we got a lot in Portland, Oregon, but a lot in Portland, Maine. It was shocking to me.
Yeah. I think Portland, Maine has taken over Portland, Oregon for the most breweries per capita, I believe.
Hush you. Don't tell us that fact. Don't tell us that fact. Well, Jeremy, it's been just a delight to have you on the podcast. I want to come back for the next couple of years, once a year. I want to come back and see your progress and maybe film at the new location. I will be following with excitement and joy. I wish you all the success in the world. And if you're listening to this podcast and you get a chance to get hold of some Barrens, I would highly encourage you to do it. Even the things that were weird, I liked. The things that I wasn't so sure about, that Christmas gin is amazing. That sugar kelp vodka with a really nice tuna steak or some good sushi. It is just, the flavor combinations would be incredible. Of course, your Navy gin, that's an incredible cocktail. It's all amazing stuff. It's all amazing stuff. I wish you all the success in the world. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Great. Thank you very much, Steven.
All right. Cheers.